That's a good segue. Like let's get into some of these practical tools for better self-programming. I guess another way to frame the question is what's the formula? What's the formula for a really high performance mental game?
The very, very first step is decide what the hell you want. And there is so much power in decision. Just make a decision. You know, when I work with people, I call it the trifecta. I like to work in three areas: finance, health and wellness, and relationship with self. And so just for a starting point, if you're listening to this, you know, and maybe you can do a quick, like, how do I rate myself? My finances, how do I rate myself on my health and wellness? And how do I rate myself on my relationship with me? And whichever one you think has the most room for improvement is probably a good place to start. And then decide, what do you want? If it's finances, like, what do you want? $1 million, $10 million, $100 million. Like, what do you want? And when I'm playing this exercise, time, money aren't an issue. We're literally trying to get into our imagination and create a new idea of what's possible. And the cool thing about this process is as you decide what you want, and if you make sure it's outside of what you think you can have, it's going to challenge some of your programming. And that's where the growth is. That's where we do mindset work to get to the next level.
Do a lot of people get stuck on the this is what I think I can have track versus this is what I actually want?
Yes. I mean, not cheesy, but like real world examples. I'm talking to somebody and they want a bigger house and they say, oh no, that's too big a house. Why is that too big? Because I don't want to clean it. Or my wife doesn't want to clean it. My husband doesn't want to clean it. What if you had a cleaner? Oh, I didn't think about that. What if you had a driver? What, you know what I mean? Every step of the way.
Right.
You know, I was working with a really high level business owner a few years ago, telling him that I thought my mindset work could help him. And this is a guy that runs a very large organization. He's very successful by all means. And he's like, Sean, I just don't know that I need mindset work. And we were having this conversation. I said, well, let's think of a bigger thing than you're thinking right now. And he's a huge Buccaneers fan. I said, what if you own the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? And he started laughing. He goes, I don't want to own them. I love going to the Buck games. I don't want to own the Bucks because I said, why? Because of all the responsibility. He gave me a bunch of self-limiting beliefs.
Right.
And as I pointed him out, it was one of those, you got me there. I'm limiting my thinking. And he's been working with me now for a couple of years and he's thinking bigger than ever. In fact, he's got some really cool goals that he's decided. And again, go back to decision, decide what you want.
What's step number 2?
So step number 2 is the first thought you have after you think of something outside of what you think you can have is why you can't have it. So clarify those reasons. Why do you think you can't have it? Because those are some of your paradigms. Those are some of your self-limiting beliefs. And, things I hear, not enough time or money, scarcity, too young, too old, like whatever the thought is. Sometimes it's too much work. Sometimes it's, I've had gentlemen that have had, a $5 to $7 million company and they think, I don't want to own a 20 or a 30 million because I have so much work now. I have no work-life balance. What is it going to be there? And it's like, well, if you get rid of the control paradigm, you get some good people in place, you actually might be able to run that size organization working less.
When you're talking about the reasons why people think they can't have it, is it like extremely unique and individual every time? Or is it like basically a common pattern of the same, 6 or 8 things?
That's a great question. I think the paradigms are similar, right?
The story or the color or the events might be different, but that's kind of what I'm asking. Like everyone kind of maybe has a different journey that got them there. But like, in our work, like there's basically only 6 challenges that people have when it comes to systemizing their business. You know what I mean? Like they don't understand their numbers. They haven't defined roles for anyone. They can't recruit and attract talent. They have no training and onboarding systems, no way to like transfer knowledge, a few other things that they would like be really roadblocked. Why? And they would describe that different ways and there'd be a different reason every time, but the root cause is almost always, one of a pretty short list of things. And I just wonder if mindset work is kind of the same way.
It is. The common paradigms we talked about earlier, right? Am I enough? Scarcity, control, the superhuman. Those are the programs that run that keep them from wanting to get to the next level. And if you think about it, once I decide what I want, most people go from there to the how. And this is a trick with mindset is the second you go to the how, it starts to get complicated and you start to come up with the reasons you think you can't have it. And so going back to step one, when you're deciding what you want, let go of the how for a little bit. Because again, law of attraction, you're going to take action and you're going to come up with a how. But I want you to really work on the belief and decide what you want before you get into the business plan of how you're going to do it. Because sometimes the planning of it is what takes you out of the belief. And so decide what you want and then forget two things. Forget how you're going to do it, and you don't have to justify the why, the how and the why. Because a lot of times, I've had people, I used to joke, I went to buy a Porsche and somebody told me I couldn't. Well, the person who told me I couldn't was me. I said, I have 4 young kids. I have all these I came up with all my lists. I could have, right? But I came up with my reasons. And for a lot of people, when they decide what they want, step 2, they decide why they can't have it before they even believe it's possible for them.
So decide what you want, clarify why you think you can't have it. What's sort of like the next step in the process? If you're saying like resist the how, what should we do? Is there a way to kind of implement this further?
Yeah, it has to become a belief. Anytime I'm working with anybody, whatever you believe is possible is what you're seeing on the outside. And so if you're trying to get a bigger thought, you decide on something that's bigger and you're not seeing it and you don't see how it's possible, you got to get it inside. And so write it down, come up with a clear, concise statement that you can write down every day.
So these are like the actual action steps. This is practical, like do this tomorrow type steps. And you're saying do some writing or maybe describe that more.
Yeah. So step 1, write down what you decided you want.
Okay.
Let's say I want $1 million. Okay. Write it in present tense. I am so happy and grateful now that I have $1 million. Step 2, come up with some affirmations to write that are the opposite of the reasons you think you can't have that $1 million.
Give me an example.
If it's a scarcity, if it's not enough time, I am a time creator. If you're a scatterbrain and you think about too many things and you can't stay focused, I am focused. I am determined. Like the step 2, the reasons you think you can't have it. Once you have that down, we write opposite statements that are going to reprogram the opposite into us.
So it's literally like that cartoon of Bart Simpson writing lines on a chalkboard, like you're doing that for yourself.
Yes. And it's magic. This is not woo-woo BS. This is decide what you want. I want $1 million. The reasons you can't have it, whatever it is, scarcity. I am abundant. Lack of focus, procrastination. I am action. I am focused. I am worthy. A lot of us, and I've had people that have that money come and have trouble receiving it because at some level they feel like so I am worthy. The one with I am enoughness, I recommend everybody that I ever come into contact, if you're going to start doing some affirmations, say these 3 things to yourself every single day. I am enough. I have always been enough. I will always be enough. And if you look in the mirror and you say any of these and they feel funny, that's the point. Because if it didn't feel funny, you would already believe it and you wouldn't need to work on that. And, whenever I'm working with clients one-on-one, that's the first feedback I get is, Sean, this feels silly. I feel like I'm playing make-believe. You are, because you don't believe it yet. If you want to get more self-confidence and you don't like the way you appear. I worked with one gentleman once. I'm like, I want you to say I'm a sexy bitch every day 20 times in the mirror. He started laughing. Oh, Sean, look at me, man. I'm out of shape. I'm overweight. I have no hair. I don't care. You can show up in confidence and be a sexy bitch, but you have to believe it inside before it'll ever show up. And when people start doing that, they start acting differently. When you start believing it, you start caring about things that you didn't care about before at a subconscious level.
What do you think? What role do visualizations play in all this? Like, is that maybe a part of the practice?
Yes, 100%. 100%. Visualization helps with the repetition because I'm not only saying it, I'm seeing it in my mind. And when I see it, I can feel it. And so to me, visualization helps with 2 things. It helps me see it and it helps me feel it. And there are literally Olympic studies with athletes that did visualization they would literally think about doing their activity, whether it's running, throwing, and they would track and the brain would fire impulses like as if they were actually doing it. So the power, and there's celebrity stories. Jim Carrey was homeless, sitting in his car in the hills of Beverly Hills, writing himself a check and visualizing that he was famous. And then it came to be. So visualization is huge. It's really
just like break it down a little bit more. Like, is there a time of day where it's best? How long should it take? What do you just close your eyes and kind of go there mentally? Like, what do you tell your contractors to do to really become kind of methodical and religious about their visualizations?
So the first step is your daily affirmation, and it's writing. Before we get to visualizing, and let's talk about that for just a minute, because I've worked with a lot of contractors, especially. Sean, I don't read, I don't write. Just know that. I just go do stuff, right? Well, the fact that you think you don't write is a paradigm. It's a program. So let's change that for you. Let's get a pencil and a piece of paper. Let's take it out of your mind and put it into the physical world. There's just something magical. It's an idea. Now it's on paper.
Yeah.
The other thing is we're now putting it down on paper so we can see it. That's a visualization in itself. I'm so happy, grateful now that I'm $1 million sales rep. I now see it on the outside world. So I got it. The other thing is it creates focus. You can't sit and write a sentence like that and think about the 30 things you have to do, right? I talked about multitasking before when you're driving down the freeway. You can't write your affirmations while you're talking on your cell phone and eating your cheeseburger. You have to focus. Right. And so to me, that's the important. So step one is have some daily affirmation practice where you're writing
what you want, pen to
want,
paper in a journal.
Pen to paper. That's step one. And then step two is, as part of this process, just close your eyes and do some visualization. And for me, when I'm visualizing, and some of us can see pictures, some of us can see color, some of us can just feel. To me, the most important thing is when you see it, what does that feel like? Because that's what's going to drive it home. We talked about the paradigm. Repetition is one part, emotional event. And visualization to me helps lock that emotion. If I can literally see myself in that abundance, if I can see myself in that success, oh my gosh, that feels amazing. The new house, the new car, the vacation with my kids running around on the beach and we're just relaxing. I can see that. And again, it's every single day. Spaced repetition of thought. Write it down, hold it in your mind.
Listen, if you like that clip, you can watch the full episode by clicking here. If you're not yet subscribed, you probably should be, and you can do that by clicking right here.